The issue we deal with in California is determining the effects of carbon dioxide's role in climate change. Carbon dioxide is actually accountable for 82% of greenhouse gas emissions in the state of California, according to the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. The greenhouse gases that have been enhancing the amount of heat we can trap in our atmosphere have increased ever since the Industrial Revolution. With these rising levels of carbon dioxide concentration, our coral reefs have been slowly shrinking and dying alongside our lush green forests due to wildfires. The stakeholders that are arguing over whether or not carbon dioxide has become beneficial or detrimental to climate change are the Office of Environmental Health Hazard Assessment and Inder M. Gocklany. This issue is located primarily in California and its coasts. The OEHHA and I both share the belief that increased carbon dioxide levels are actually detrimental to our climate, which is killing our coastal ecosystems and setting our vegetation aflame. In order to understand the arguments these stakeholders are giving, we must first unveil the history behind the OEHHA and Inder M. Gocklany. The OEHHA is a lead state agency for the assessment of health risks posed by environmental contaminants, and is made to protect human health through scientific evaluation of the risks posed by hazardous substances. They're the head of protecting the human race from environmental risks in California. They are located in Sacramento, California. For our second stakeholder, his name is Inder M. Gocklany. He was a member of the U.S. delegation that established the IPCC and helped develop its first assessment report. He is also an independent scholar, as well as an author of various books. He acquired his education from Michigan State University and is now a former senior advisor at the U.S. Interior Department's Office of Policy Analysis. After unpacking both stakeholders, we must now see where their arguments lie on the issue of carbon dioxide's actual role in climate change. According to the OEHH's report on climate change indicators, they believe that the Earth's climate is warming, mostly due to human activities such as changes in land cover and emissions of certain pollutants. In the same report, they inform its audience about each driver of climate change and how detrimental these drivers are in Los Angeles' and San Diego's environment. Gocklany believes that the impact of rising carbon dioxide concentrations is currently net beneficial for both humanity and the biosphere generally. But stopping the increase in carbon dioxide levels would deprive people and the planet of the benefits of carbon dioxide much sooner than they would reduce any cost of warming, according to Gocklany. He simply believes that there are enough benefits to rising carbon dioxide levels that they should take precedence over the negative effects it has on our environment and in California. The OEHHA provides statistical evidence that carbon dioxide causes warming temperatures to increase, which leads to wildfires and declining snowpacks. In the report, they state that tree deaths have increased dramatically and that 129 million trees died between 2012 and December 2017. These deaths were caused by higher temperatures and decreased amounts of water available to the trees. The temperature increase is directly caused by greenhouse gas emissions that mainly consist of carbon dioxide. The drier and hotter our climate is becoming makes our trees more vulnerable to wildfires, and according to the OEHHA, the area burned by wildfires each year has been increasing. Looking at the chart, the acres being burnt by wildfires each year is gradually increasing. The OEHHA also mentions that unusually warm temperatures intensified the effects of very low precipitation and snowpack and created conditions for extreme, high-severity wildfires to spread rapidly. So in turn, increasing temperatures causes spring snowmelt to occur earlier than expected, which makes trees even more vulnerable to wildfires. Despite these negative effects, Gocklany believes that increased concentrations of carbon dioxide actually increases crop yields and reduces food prices for humans. Gocklany pulls data from a recent econometric analysis that collected a total of 60 years of historical data on U.S. crop yields with output from phase trials and records of temperature, precipitation, and carbon dioxide levels, which estimated that significant proportions of observed yield increases could be attributed to carbon dioxide rather than technological change. This is consistent with the notion that increased carbon dioxide levels reduce the sensitivity of yield to other factors. All else being equal, Lower variation translates into a more stable supply of food, as well as more stable food prices, which benefits all consumers everywhere. Gocklany states that not only does carbon dioxide levels help crop yield, it helps stabilize the amount of food supply we can produce, which will in turn stabilize the prices of our food. The OEHHA argues that increasing levels of carbon dioxide leads to ocean acidification that negatively affects California coastal ecosystems. According to their report, it seems that the ocean absorbs approximately 30% of the CO2 released into the atmosphere each year. At first, it sounds like a good thing because the ocean is taking some of the carbon dioxide away from the atmosphere, but it's actually causing ocean acidification. Ocean acidification is when the pH of the ocean actually decreases due to carbon uptake, which also causes our coral reefs to weaken its structure and die quickly. The report also mentions that ocean acidification is also likely to exacerbate the impact of other stressors, including overfishing and deoxygenation, on coastal ecosystems. So not only does increasing carbon dioxide levels lead to ocean acidification, it also helps make overfishing and deoxygenation even worse. Here's a quick clip from Science Today about how ocean acidification affects our California coastal ecosystem.
With shells.
Many organisms in the ocean build skeletons out of calcium carbonate, which is basically chalk. Clams, corals, snails, many organisms use this material for their skeletons. Ocean acidification, it will literally dissolve some of the shell. It will affect the structural integrity of the shell, and this is a skeleton of the animal. Think of your own skeletons basically becoming a little bit rubbery.
On the other hand, Gocklany claims that the rise of carbon dioxide concentrations contributes to increases in biological productivity in unmanaged ecosystems. His report claims that the productivity of global ecosystems has increased by 14% in aggregate. Using satellite data, Gocklany states that all vegetation types have greened, including tropical rainforests, deciduous and evergreen boreal forests, scrubland, semi-deserts, grasslands, and all other wild ecosystems, including those that do not even have direct input of man-made nitrogen fertilizer. This increase in aggregate occurs in a period during which carbon dioxide levels have increased by 15 to 31%. He uses these figures to show a direct connection from carbon dioxide levels to our unmanaged ecosystems. He also builds a connection between the increase in biological productivity to crop yield increase. He correlates that the increased greening detected via satellite and aircraft measurements is consistent with the increases in crop yields seen over the past 50 years. Not only does Gocklany use the satellite data to prove how much greening has increased due to carbon dioxide all over the world, he correlates increased crop yields with the increased greening. The OEHHA claims that the rate at which carbon dioxide is increasing is actually speeding up the rate of global temperatures. The report states that global temperatures are directly linked to GHG levels in the atmosphere. In order to prove this, they bring up the 2015 Paris Agreement, which aimed to hold the increase in the global average temperature to well below 2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels and to pursue efforts to limit the temperature increase even further to 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. We are at a point that we actually have to start putting a limit to a temperature increase due to unnecessarily high carbon dioxide levels. The OEHHA has word from climate arguments stating that a reduction from the current level of CO2 in the atmosphere to 350 ppm CO2 by 2100 will be essential to avoid dangerous anthropogenic climate change. The current ppm of CO2 in our atmosphere today is at 407 according to climate.gov. Climate.gov also states that the rate at which our ppm is increasing is about 100 times faster than natural increases which occurred nearly 11,000 to 17,000 years ago. Gocklany disputes this by stating that there's little to no evidence that warming has occurred or that any changes caused by carbon dioxide have caused it. Gocklany does acknowledge that there has been changes due to increased carbon dioxide levels, but states that there actually hasn't been a problem since the end of the last ice age or since the putative start of man-made warming around 1950. He's saying that there hasn't been any effects on humans and our environment since those two periods. After acknowledging the fact that there are detrimental effects of increased levels of carbon dioxide, he states that they frequently been beneficial. He backs this up by reinstating his claims about increased crop yields and greening. If we don't arrive at a consensus that increased carbon dioxide levels in the atmosphere are volatile and detrimental to the human race and our environment, there will be no future for our children in California. The OEHHA has provided more than enough data to prove that carbon dioxide is very dangerous to the state of California, be it the ocean acidification, the wildfires, and the warming temperatures. We need to spread awareness on this matter and understand what's right from wrong so that we can save our vegetation and coastal ecosystems. Simply getting the facts right and using reliable resources to fuel our knowledge on carbon dioxide and climate change is already a step in the right direction. As a society, we need to band together and get on the right side of climate change so that the incoming crisis will no longer hover over the heads of our children.